Tom Bauer is behind the unauthorized biography, Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Winters. Tom, I'm just making the point that you've got Harry, who has created this world of delusion, now around the fact that, the media was conspiring with the institution. Have you ever wondered what happens when a Hollywood actress brings her bag of tricks into an institution that survived 1,000 years by keeping meticulous records? Sometimes all it takes is one forgotten magazine page to expose everything. Back in 1997, a teenage publication printed something that nobody thought twice about at the time. Just another aspiring actress hoping for her big break. But fast forward nearly 3 decades, and that same page has become the smoking gun that's tearing apart the royal fairy tale we've all been sold. When Tom Bauer stumbled across this evidence and started connecting it to everything else swirling around the Duchess of Sussex, controversial new book about Meghan Markle gives a critical account of the Duchess's time as a royal. Cracks appeared in a story that was supposed to be airtight. And here's what makes this terrifying. If they got away with lying about something this basic, this documented, this easy to verify, what else have they been hiding? The Hollywood romance, those mysterious pregnancies, the dramatic exit from royal life. Suddenly, it all looks different when you realize the foundation might be built on sand. Stay with us to uncover the shocking truth behind this story. The evidence nobody was supposed to find. March 1997, 17 magazine hits news stands across America with their regular feature spotlighting up and coming talent. Page 90 features a young woman named Meghan Markle, and right there in black and white, it lists her age as 21. Now, here's where things get interesting. According to every official record, every palace document, every biography that's been published since she became the Duchess of Sussex. According to Meghan Markle, during an interview with Bloomberg published August 26, the Duchess of Sussex sets the record straight once, and for all on what her last name is since marrying into the royal family. Meghan was born on August 4, 1981. Do the math. If that birth year is accurate, then in March of 1997, she would have been just 15 years old, still navigating high school hallways, probably stressing about college applications. Definitely not 21. But this magazine, distributed to millions of homes, printed and verifiable even today, says she was 21. That's not a small typo. That's not someone accidentally switching 2 numbers. That's a 6-year gap. And gaps that large don't happen by accident. You can't mistakenly add 6 years to someone's age. If anything, people in Holly would shave years off, not pile them on. So, either this publication had the most incompetent fact-checkers in the history of teen magazines, or they printed exactly what they were given. And here's the kicker. This was published when Meghan was a nobody. No palace handlers managing her image. No multi-million-dollar brand to protect. No reason whatsoever to lie. Just a young woman submitting her real information to get noticed in a brutally competitive industry. Think about what this does to her entire narrative. If she was actually born around 1975 or 76, then when she was doing those briefcase girl gigs on game shows, she wasn't some fresh-faced 20, some grinding for her breakthrough. She was pushing 30, already aging out of Hollywood's cruelest window. The desperation changes, the timeline shifts, and suddenly, her meteoric rise to capture a prince starts looking less like destiny and more like a very calculated last chance play, a strategic reinvention built on illusion and timing. Why this goes beyond Hollywood. Now, before we dive deeper, let's address something important. You might be thinking, who really cares if she fudged her age? Hollywood does it all the time, right? And you'd be absolutely correct. The entertainment industry is savage about age, especially for women. Actresses in their late 20s get told they're too old to play romantic leads, while their male co-stars are pushing 50 and still landing action hero roles. It's brutal, unfair, and forces women into impossible corners. We've seen it happen over and over. Gabrielle Carter was nearly 30 when she played a high schooler on that famous Zip Code show. Rachel McAdams was 25 playing a teenager in that movie about mean girls. The list stretches on forever. Hollywood has this twisted relationship with aging where youth equals currency. And admitting you've crossed 30 can literally kill your career overnight. So yeah, if Meghan shaved some years off to keep getting auditions to stay competitive in an industry that would rather hire a 24-year-old with zero experience than a 30-year-old with actual talent, that's understandable. That's survival in a system designed to chew women up and spit them out the second they stop looking like teenagers. But here's where Meghan's situation becomes something entirely different. She didn't just lie to some casting director or fudge a number on an audition sheet. She carried that deception into the British royal family, one of the most documented, scrutinized, historically obsessive institutions on the planet. She married a prince, gave birth to children who are literally in the line of succession, and built an entire public brand on being authentic and speaking her truth, all while potentially living under false pretenses. That's not bending the rules to survive. That's importing Hollywood illusions into a 1,000-year-old institution and gambling that nobody would catch on. And that's when this stops being about industry standards and starts being about deception at the highest levels. The father who spoke up. Now, let's talk about the one voice you can't easily write off as jealous gossip or tabloid invention. Her father. When Thomas Markle started speaking publicly about inconsistencies in his daughter's official story, it carried weight that random internet theories never could. This wasn't some bitter ex-friend looking for 15 minutes of fame. This was the man who raised her, who lived through her childhood, not as Wikipedia entries, but as actual memories. He remembered what grade she was in during specific years when she graduated, when she first started chasing acting seriously. And according to Thomas, those memories don't match up with the official version the palace has promoted. Think about what it takes for a parent to do that, to essentially stand in front of the world and say, "The story my daughter is selling doesn't align with reality." That's not a casual decision. That's not something you do on a whim. Thomas Markle, whatever his flaws and however messy his media appearances have been, was there for the moments that matter. He held her as a baby. He paid for her schooling. He remembers birthdays not as dates on a screen, but as lived experiences. Her father, he says he paid for her education and holidays, and took her to TV show sets where he worked as a lighting designer. So when he suggests that Meghan isn't as young as the palace claims, when he hints that her official birth year might have been adjusted somewhere along the line, it lands with gravity that online speculation never achieves. And here's what's haunting about his interviews. He doesn't scream conspiracy. He doesn't rant wildly. He speaks carefully, almost sadly, like someone who knows he's destroying whatever relationship remains with his daughter, but feels compelled to speak anyway. He talks about watching her construct a public persona that didn't match the person he knew, about seeing her rewrite history in real time. Some dismissed him as bitter. Others said he was chasing attention. But what if he was simply a father who watched his daughter's ambition override truth and couldn't stay quiet? What if his testimony wasn't revenge but legacy, making sure that before this story gets permanently cemented in history books, someone who actually knows the facts speaks up. Because once the royal machine accepts a narrative, it becomes gospel. And Thomas knew if he didn't speak, then the real timeline would be buried forever. The royal vetting that never happened. Here's what's absolutely mind-blowing about this entire situation. The British royal family has survived centuries of scandals, wars, and political earthquakes, specifically because they are obsessive about documentation. They have entire departments dedicated to genealogy, recordkeeping, and historical accuracy. When Kate Middleton started dating Prince William, investigators researched her family tree going back generations. They knew about her parents' business ventures, distant relatives, everything. Royal protocol demands it. So, how on earth did a 6-year age discrepancy documented in a nationally distributed American magazine slip through the cracks? Either the vetting process failed spectacularly, or someone saw the inconsistency and decided it wasn't important. Both possibilities are disturbing. If they failed to catch it, that means Harry rushed this marriage so fast that basic background checks got skipped. That means he was so infatuated, so desperate to lock things down that he bypassed centuries of royal protocol designed specifically to prevent exactly this kind of mess. Or worse, maybe they did find it. Maybe someone in the palace dug up that magazine page, saw the numbers didn't add up, and made a calculated decision that bringing Meghan into the family was worth overlooking the red flag. Maybe they thought a charismatic American actress was exactly the modernization the monarchy needed, and some flexible paperwork was a small price to pay. Either way, it represents a massive institutional breakdown, because this isn't just about vanity or personal insecurity. When you're marrying into a family where bloodlines and succession matter, where children born from that union are literally in line for the throne, accuracy matters, dates matter, truth matters. You can't just show up with a flexible biography and expect nobody to care. The monarchy has blocked marriages over far less controversial issues. They've enforced strict rules about who can join the family, what documentation is required, what histories are acceptable. So for this to slip through suggests either catastrophic negligence or willful blindness. And honestly, neither option is comforting, because both scenarios mean the institution failed, and that failure is now playing out on the world stage. The biology that doesn't add up. Now, let's talk about why the age issue goes beyond vanity or career strategy. Let's talk about biology, because this is where the discrepancy starts affecting medical realities that no amount of public relations can spin away. If Meghan was born in 1981, she was 37 when she gave birth to Archie in 2019. That's officially classified as a geriatric pregnancy, a clinical term that comes with increased risks and stricter medical oversight. But if that magazine got it right, if she was actually born around 1975 or 76, then she wasn't 37 when Archie arrived. She was 43 or 44. And that changes absolutely everything about how we should understand those pregnancies, because a 43-year-old first-time mother faces exponentially higher risks. Higher rates of chromosomal issues, gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, preterm delivery. This isn't judgment, it's medical fact. Fertility drops dramatically after 40, and complications rise just as sharply. So, when you layer this context onto all the bizarre inconsistencies surrounding Archie's birth, the secretive hospital choice, the contradictory timelines, the medical impossibilities in Harry's own account, suddenly the control and secrecy start making sense in a different way. It suggests there may have been far more happening behind closed doors than the palace ever admitted. Medical records hidden, timelines rewritten, and details quietly adjusted to protect an image already under strain. Every choice, the midwife's silence, the missing witnesses, the vanishing doctors, paints a picture of an operation designed for control, not celebration. Think about the pressure. If Meghan was in her early 40s trying to conceive, the stakes would have been immense. The royal family needs heirs. The public expected babies, and Meghan's entire value to the institution, let's be honest, was partly tied to her ability to produce those heirs. So, what happens when your biological clock is running out faster than anyone realizes because you've been lying about your age for decades? What lengths would someone go to in order to hide that reality? Now, I'm not making definitive claims about what happened, but the rumors that have swirled since day one, the way her bump seemed to change sizes dramatically between appearances, the fact that we've never seen credible hospital photos, the way the birth story contradicts basic medical protocol. All of this hits different when you realize she might have been significantly older than anyone knew. It provides context for why everything surrounding those pregnancies felt so controlled, so scripted, so removed from normal royal birth procedures. Because maybe they weren't hiding vanity. Maybe they were hiding biology. And if your entire public image is built on being young, vibrant, and effortlessly achieving everything you want, admitting that conception at your real age required extraordinary measures would shatter that carefully crafted narrative, the birth story that doesn't make medical sense. Let's break down exactly why Tom Bower called the official Archie birth story lies. Because once you understand the medical realities, you can't unsee how impossible the palace narrative actually is. According to Harry's memoir, Meghan received 2 epidurals, gave birth in this serene wellness style setting with birthing balls and candles, and then recovered and left the hospital for home within 2 hours. Every single piece of that account contradicts medical protocol. First, 2 epidurals. Medical professionals have been crystal clear. That's not how epidurals work. All the work without the woman fighting against the pain. So, especially at the end when moms exhaust, you don't get 2 separate procedures. An epidural is a continuous line of medication that can be adjusted, not something you double up on like taking extra painkillers. So, either Harry completely misunderstood what happened or that detail was invented for dramatic effect. Second, the 2-hour turnaround. The drive alone from the hospital to their home takes about an hour, sometimes longer with traffic. That means everything else, delivery, observation, recovery, paperwork, discharge, had to happen in less than an hour. After an epidural, which requires waiting for the anesthesia to wear off, regaining feeling in your legs, stabilizing blood pressure, and being medically cleared to leave. Women who have had epidurals know you can barely walk for hours afterward. The idea that Meghan delivered, recovered, and was home in 2 hours is medically absurd. Then there's the setting Harry described. Birthing balls, ambient lighting, a spa-like atmosphere. That's lovely for low-risk, uncomplicated births. But Meghan was classified as high risk. She was over 35, possibly dealing with preeclampsia. According to reports, and hospitals don't allow high-risk mothers to have wellness births. Protocol demands continuous monitoring, immediate access to emergency intervention, not candles and yoga balls. And if she truly had preeclampsia, one of the most dangerous pregnancy complications, she wouldn't have been discharged at all. Treatment involves intensive blood pressure, monitoring, and keeping the mother under observation for at least 24 to 48 hours. You don't go home in 2 hours. You don't even leave your hospital bed in 2 hours. Tom Bauer's hospital insider confirmed that the story as told doesn't match procedures for high-risk births. And that's the smoking gun, not speculation, not theory, but someone who works there saying the official story is medically impossible. So why lie? Why construct this elaborate fairy tale that falls apart the moment anyone with medical knowledge examines it? Because the truth, whatever it is, must be worse than getting caught in an obvious lie. The authenticity brand built on deception. Let's zoom out and look at what we're really dealing with here. Because this story is bigger than just one woman's age or one suspicious birth. This is about what happens when you build an entire brand on authenticity while living a carefully constructed lie. Meghan and Harry have spent years positioning themselves as truth tellers, as victims of an institution that suppressed their authentic selves, as brave rebels who escaped to live honestly. They've done prime-time interviews about their truth. They've released documentaries about their truth. Harry wrote an entire memoir supposedly laying everything bare. Prince Harry is ready to tell his story. It's been announced that the Duke of Sussex will pen an intimate and heartfelt memoir that will detail the experiences, adventures, losses, and life lessons that have helped shape him. And yet, if these revelations are accurate, the foundation of their entire narrative is fake. How can you claim to be silenced and suppressed when you're the one controlling information, hiding records, and rewriting history? How can you sell authenticity when your age, your children's births, and your past are all wrapped in contradictions and medical impossibilities? The royal family, for all its faults, operates on documented lineage. They can trace bloodlines back centuries because records matter. Dates matter. Truth, even uncomfortable truth, matters more than image. But Meghan and Harry have done the opposite. They've prioritized the story over the facts, the narrative over the evidence, and now it's collapsing. Because here's the thing about lies: they require constant maintenance. You have to remember what you said. Keep your story straight. Make sure no old magazines are floating around with inconvenient dates, and eventually you slip. Eventually, someone like Tom Bauer comes along, pulls one loose thread, and the whole thing unravels. So ask yourself this: if they lied about her age, what else are they lying about? If the birth stories are medically impossible, what really happened? And if their entire public image is this carefully crafted performance, can we believe anything they say? Because the truth doesn't need protection. Only deception does. The royal facade built on selective truths and half-remembered timelines starts to crumble the moment real scrutiny enters the picture. Every polished interview, every emotional confession now feels like part of a grand act, one meant to manipulate sympathy while concealing inconvenient realities that the palace and perhaps even Harry himself desperately need to keep hidden. The truth isn't always comfortable, but it's always worth finding. Because in a world of carefully managed images and approved narratives, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply ask, what if everything we've been told is a lie? And once you start asking that question, you can never stop seeing the cracks in the fairy tale. Every whisper becomes a clue, every silence a signal. Drop your thoughts below, because this conversation is far from over. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're going to keep digging into the stories the palace doesn't want you questioning. If you found this eye-opening, smash that like button and share this with someone who needs to see it. The truth deserves to be heard, and together we'll uncover it piece by piece. The message was simple: challenge her will, and the truth would do the talking. digital sovereignty and royal cyber protections. While royal tradition is bound in parchment and wax seals, Queen Elizabeth Roman II recognized that the future of monarchy required robust digital safeguards. In her final years, she authorized a quiet overhaul of data handling procedures involving confidential palace communications. The royal household's IT division collaborated with GCHQ to develop a sovereign-level encryption framework specifically designed for internal use between senior royals, their legal counsel, and trusted security units. This protocol was surnamed Crown Shield and operated independently from the UK government's digital systems. Notably, all evidence intended for the sealed envelope, voice notes, letters, and electronic messages was stored using these systems. Unlike the conventional National Archives processes, Crown Shield's design included self-erasing fallback layers to prevent unauthorized duplication. This ensured that even in a worst-case scenario, the Queen's most sensitive communications remained tamper-proof and untraceable without multi-party access clearance. Legal advisors later confirmed that this move gave the Queen's final act a level of technological permanence that paralleled her constitutional foresight, ensuring that monarchy, even in digital form, remained sovereign above intrusion. The pain behind the quiet. The Queen's decision did not come suddenly. It had deep roots. It began quietly, long before her passing inside palace walls. Privately, she was deeply hurt by Harry and Meghan's 2020 decision to step back from royal duties. Though her public response was measured and kind, those close to her knew she was shaken behind the scenes. The Queen had witnessed earlier family rifts between Charles and Diana, and even echoes of Edward Roman VII's abdication, and feared the long-term consequences repeating in a modern digital age. She worried what their exit and the media storm that followed could mean for the monarchy's long-term stability. Then came the now infamous interview. It was not just what was said, but the tone, the innuendo, and what was left unspoken that affected her most. From that point forward, she began gathering evidence, notes from staff, private messages, and internal reports. Sources say Buckingham Palace's internal security team even established an informal safeguard desk that logged real-time correspondence linked to external press threats and reputational risks. And when Prince Andrew's scandals grew louder, it only strengthened her resolve. In other news stories, the attorneys who represent some of Jeffrey Epstein's victims have said that Britain's Prince Andrew could be a target of prosecution, and urged him to come forward and testify in the trafficking case. With the monarchy's reputation at risk, she knew she could not leave the cleanup to others. Her will was not merely the end of an era. It marked the start of a new kind of royal authority, the legal lock, parliamentary immunity, and the will. What made Queen Elizabeth's will uniquely untouchable was not just her royal authority, but a quiet motion passed under the Sovereign Affairs privilege in 2021. This clause, buried in a stack of broader government reforms, gave the Queen's final directives immunity from judicial review, provided they were certified under sovereign seal. Legal scholars say this was a preemptive safeguard designed in part to prevent royal wills from becoming political tools or subject to modern-day litigation. In practical terms, it meant that not even the Prime Minister or Privy Council could override the terms unless a full constitutional crisis was declared. A former Lord Justice confirmed off the record that this provision had been discussed in advance with the monarch herself, marking one of the rare instances where personal legacy and statecraft intersected so overtly. King Charles faces the crown's burden. As King Charles listened to each clause being read, the weight of it all sank in. This was not only about honoring his mother's final wishes. It was about carrying them out with no deviation. Legally and emotionally, he was bound to every word. Any alteration risked triggering what the Queen had warned about, the sealed envelope. And inside, it was not just family drama. It was material that could reshape the monarchy's image far beyond the UK. Charles, once the grieving son, was now the monarch. But through the will, the Queen had placed clear limits on him. His new role came with the burden of defending both tradition and truth. One clause stood out, Clause 73. It left no ambiguity. The envelope would remain sealed only if the will stayed untouched. Challenge it. And the fallout would be swift and global. Some said the contents included Meghan's emails to staff. Others believed it contained handwritten notes between her and the Queen. Even Charles reportedly was not given full access. Royal aides later confirmed that only the Lord Chamberlain and 2 trusted archivists from the Royal Archives at Windsor Castle were permitted to handle the envelope under secure protocols. But this was not about revenge. It was about protecting the monarchy. For Harry and Meghan, the clause was a wall. Speaking out could expose painful truths. Staying silent meant remaining estranged from both family and institution. The Queen had understood there was no easy way forward. Emotional mapping and psychological preparation. Behind the scenes, the Queen did not rely solely on legal documents and sealed envelopes in what some insiders described as emotional mapping. She quietly prepared Charles, William, and Anne for key aspects of the transition long before her passing. Royal insiders revealed that she held a series of one-on-one meetings during the last 2 years of her life, each centered not on royal protocols, but on psychological readiness. These sessions included detailed handwritten notes, personal reflections, and guidance on managing conflict, emotional distance, and long-term family fractures. While Charles was tasked with constitutional endurance, William received more emotive insights on fatherhood, legacy, and the burden of generational disappointment. Anne, ever the stabilizer, was entrusted with a silent role as moral compass and quiet enforcer, meant to counterbalance public sentiment should cracks deepen between the brothers. Some aides likened the Queen's approach to a soft abdication of sentiment, not power, deliberately dividing strength, steadiness, and sensitivity across her 3 most loyal heirs. In doing so, she ensured that the institution of monarchy was not only protected by law, but emotionally insulated from collapse, the media freeze, and preemptive measures. Behind closed doors, Buckingham Palace also took steps to manage the posthumous media fallout. A crisis team assembled a year before the Queen's passing reportedly worked under the name Operation Legacy. Its mandate was to monitor press inquiries, manage social media narratives, and legally challenge any unauthorized leaks about the Queen's private correspondences. Notably, 3 of the Queen's private secretaries were rotated through the office in the final 18 months to minimize risks of insider disclosures. Every digital interaction linked to the will's contents was logged, encrypted, and reviewed by a royal cybersecurity unit embedded within GCHQ. Media outlets were also reportedly sent informal warnings through legal channels, reminding them of defamation risks and the Crown's right to invoke the royal prerogative in the event of unauthorized publication, fallout, silence, and a family divided. In Montecito, tension ran high. Legal teams in London and PR firms in New York scrambled to grasp the impact of the will. Phone calls stretched into the night. Meghan asked pointed, urgent questions. Harry mostly listened, quiet and withdrawn. He was not surprised about losing financial ties, but what struck him was the exclusion of his children from royal titles. He read the section again and again, walking the house in silence. Each path forward seemed to lead back to the envelope and the chaos it might unleash if opened. Even advisors clashed. One suggested challenging the will. Another warned it could cause fallout across borders. Eventually, Harry made a call to William. He began calmly with a flicker of hope, but it faded quickly. William stood firm. Harry's voice tightened. "She told you, but not us," he said. The call ended in silence, heavier than any argument. That same night, Harry contacted King Charles. Their call lasted only 7 minutes. The king's response was quiet but final. "There's nothing I can do." No emotion, no debate, just distance. They were still family by blood, but clearly divided. Insiders later revealed that Charles was advised by his constitutional lawyers not to entertain appeals that might appear to override the Queen's sovereign judgment posthumously, a move that would set a dangerous precedent in royal history: the power of legacy and silence. The Queen's will did not just distribute assets. It redefined loyalty, trust, and truth within the royal family. Decisions once made behind closed doors were now etched in writing, permanent and unchallengeable. Her voice echoed louder through that document than in any speech she had ever given. This was not about retribution. It was about stability. She had seen the cracks in the system and chose to set immovable boundaries. Historians have since likened the will to Queen Elizabeth Roman II's last state directive, a master stroke in preservation of the realm, disguised in personal terms. Royal scholars noted that Queen Elizabeth Roman II had quietly studied several monarchs known for their crisis-era leadership, including Denmark's King Christian X during World War Roman II and Norway's King Haakon VII, both of whom had demonstrated silent resistance as a form of national strength. Sources say she viewed silence not as absence, but as strategy, where legacy was forged not by reaction, but by restraint. Her final document, then, was as much a moral compass as a legal one designed to resist erosion in a media-saturated age. A message to the future monarchs. Perhaps most powerfully, Queen Elizabeth's final gesture was not just a response to immediate turmoil. It was a guide for future rulers. Tucked into the final pages of the document was reportedly a private memorandum addressed only to Prince George and Princess Charlotte to be read upon their 18th birthdays. Though its contents remain unknown, royal watchers speculate it may contain reflections on leadership, resilience, and the burden of public duty. This move mirrored the Queen's lifelong belief in preparing the next generation not just for privilege, but for sacrifice. A subtle reminder that legacy is shaped not in moments of triumph, but in how one responds to crisis. Some believe this idea was inspired by her own father, King George VI, who had kept a wartime diary meant for his children to one day understand the weight of leadership during national uncertainty. In a symbolic gesture, the sealed memorandum was reportedly placed in the Queen's personal red dispatch box, a leather case historically used by sovereigns to review state papers, underscoring its importance. Palace aides confirmed that this box would be transferred to the royal vault under Windsor Castle until George and Charlotte came of age. This tradition, once used only for sovereign-to-sovereign transitions, was revived as a subtle indication that the Queen viewed their eventual reign as pivotal to the monarchy's moral survival in a modern world. The envelope's silent influence. The sealed envelope had become more than a backup. It was a silent force, reminding everyone of the cost of defiance. Just knowing it existed changed the atmosphere. What was once dismissed as gossip now held real weight. Every move Harry and Meghan made felt scrutinized. Every word they said or did not say seemed calculated. The Queen's strategy worked. By keeping the envelope closed, she left everyone uncertain, and in that uncertainty, no one dared to cross her wishes. Without being opened, it held power. This was not just about assets. It was about legacy and memory. Behind palace walls, a rotating team within the Royal Communications Office was instructed to flag any public interviews, podcasts, or media engagements where veiled references to the will might surface. If triggered, this would activate a review protocol called Monarch's Watch, where the envelope's existence would be re-evaluated for release. Not even the current monarch could disable the alert system without consensus from the Privy Seal Council, which was restructured months before the Queen's death to include more Commonwealth representatives, fear, silence, and a monarchy on edge. For Harry and Meghan, the risk was clear. Speaking out could bring exposure. Silence left them isolated, but silence had a cost, especially as the world kept talking. King Charles felt the strain too. He was not just a ruler. He was the guardian of a secret that could unravel everything. He could not afford a misstep. But how long can fear keep truth buried? The Queen's final move froze the family. No one dared to speak too loudly because they feared what the silence might someday reveal. Even within official palace staff circles, subtle shifts were noticed. Briefings were trimmed, language and memos became vaguer, and staff turnover increased at Clarence House and Sandringham. According to one palace insider, monthly interdep departmental meetings were suspended indefinitely due to information sensitivity. Some aides began calling it the quiet era, a time marked by restraint, hesitancy, and coded communication, where everyone operated under the looming presence of a truth that could never be confirmed, yet could never be denied. In the end, the Queen's final act was not just about inheritance. It was about control, legacy, and setting firm boundaries. Her will left the royal family suspended between duty and fear, with her silence still guiding the very institution she dedicated her life to protecting. What do you think this means for the royal family's future? Could more secrets still be hidden behind palace walls? We would love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. And if you are eager to uncover what is still untold, because there is so much more behind the crown, and this story is far from over.